All right. Hi, everybody. So I wanted to do a quick recording on the rules of accentuation because I know just reading it in the book may be a bit confusing. So I will also post the PowerPoint in Canvas. So that way, if you want to download it or print it off or take notes, you're free to do that as we talk a little bit more about this. And then hopefully that'll help you in the MindTap activities. So you'll notice at the beginning of the week, you're going to be working with syllabification. And so here you've learned some really important information about spelling and letters and how we use those in Spanish last week. So we're going to put some of that now to use. So like English, we use syllables that to separate words into fragments. So did you kind of do that clapping activity in elementary school to find syllables, right? Syllable. That's what we're talking about here. All right. In Spanish, though, it is common to end every syllable with a vowel whenever possible. So here's an example, right? Yo como vegetales. Notice the separation of syllables. Yo como vegetales. All right. So you guys will do a little bit more practice with that in MindTap, paying attention to you got it. When the rules are broken, we can never escape those pesky rule breakers and or exceptions. So let's take a look at some of those exceptions briefly. So diphthongos, hiatos, and triptongos. Did you look at that and just go, what are those words? They are words. So let's talk about that. So diphthongs in English, so di referring to two. So these are words that have two vowels in one syllable. Remember last week with the alphabet, did you start to notice that A, E, and O are a little different from E and I? That's because the first set, A, E, and O, are strong vowels. And that means they'll often take the spoken stress of a word. I and U are soft vowels, which means they'll often support the strong vowel in the same syllable. So these are words like aula. A is strong, U is weak, so they're in the same syllable. Aula, peine, cuadro, cielo, cuidado, ciudad. Right? A little elementary, but I want to make sure we got it. All right, so notice AU strong weak, EI strong weak, UA weak strong, IE weak strong, UI weak weak, and then IU weak weak, right? So they both go in the same syllable. Well, we also have words that we separate between vowels, and these are what we call hiatos. So going back to this thought of weak and strong. So what do you think will happen if we have two strong vowels, words like caer, poeta, or teatro? If you're thinking or said out loud to me in your room, they will separate into two syllables. Yes, you are very correct. Right? So these actually separate out into like caer, poeta, teatro. Okay? What about if there are two sounds, similar sounds, the same sounds together? All right, so these are those examples of words, and this is how we say them. Poseer, alcohol. Right, so the H, even though it's silent, so it's like the two O's side by side, and they're strong. Right, so these are like two strong vowels, like think of like magnetic forces, right? They kind of repel each other and separate into two syllables. Okay. Now, we know that there can be weak and strong vowels, but what if we want the weak one to carry the stress of what I'm saying? In that case, we have to write an accent on it. So these are words like mais, right? We don't say mice, right? So that we have to put the accent on the I to be sure that the speaker knows that we're separating those into two syllables. The same with reír. We don't say, I have to think about this, reír, right? We say reír. The same with sabía, right? We don't say sabía, that's a different word. And the same then with frío, frío. Okay. So moving on to triphthongs. If you guessed, try like three, you are right. These are words that have three vowels in one syllable. Usually it'll follow a weak, strong, weak pattern in which the strong vowel will actually have an accent mark on it. So these are words like copies, estudiais, meow. That's the sound, that's how we write out like meow for a cat, okay? All right, now Those weak vowels sometimes can carry stress when there's an accent on them. When that happens, it's going to be like the yato we talked about, right? So a strong vowel, then a weak vowel usually are together, but if there's an accent on that weak vowel, it's going to repel and separate, right? So these are like v, ice, limpia, uñas. Okay, so viviais and limpia uñas. Okay. So now we talked about syllabification. Now let's talk about stressed syllables. So these aren't syllables that have 3 exams and 2 presentations this week kind of stressed. When we talk about stressed with syllables, we're talking about which syllable receives a spoken stress or spoken accent. We do the same in English, right? I don't say syllable, but syllable. Of course, this does get tricky in English when writing and speaking. So take a look at those next 2 words. They're spelled the same, but we say them differently. We say content and content. In Spanish, though, there's something amazing to help us know how to say the correct word. These are accent marks. All right. But we can't just throw them around onto any old vowel, right? A vowel actually has to break a rule first for us to put an accent on it. So to know when we're breaking rules, we have to know what the rules are. So let's take a look at some of those. So these are our spoken stress or spoken accent rules. So in Spanish, there are 4 types of accents or spoken accents or spoken stress. So the first we're going to talk about is agudo. This means that the spoken stress, the spoken accent, falls or emphasizes on the last syllable. So these are words like papel, right? I don't say papel, I say papel, last syllable. Luz, monosyllabic. Or marcador. I don't say marcador or marcador, marcador. Okay? Llano words emphasize the second to last syllable. So these are words like vela, computadora, luces, right? I don't say vela or computadora or luces, right? So these are words, again, following the rules, right? Next, we have words that are called estrújulo. These emphasize the third to last syllable, right? So if you're counting backwards, so énfasis, sílaba, teléfono, okay? And then there are also words that have accents that go even further into the word, and we just call these sobreestrújulo. So these are any words that emphasize the 4th, 5th, 6th to last syllable. All right, and these are words like cómpramelos, rápidamente, llévatela, right? So notice these words are often the ones where we're adding in those pronouns, like our direct or indirect object pronouns to a verb, okay? So before we move on, take a look at those words again, those examples I gave you. Are there any patterns you're noticing? Is there anything that's similar amongst them? Things that they're doing or not doing? Let's take a look. So agudos, did you notice that these words ended in consonants? Well, when a word follows the rule of the agudo, it will end in a consonant, but not N or S. That's a different one. Those are llanos. So did you notice that these words ended in vowels or N or S? When a word follows the rule of the llano, it will end in a vowel N or S. Estrújulo. Did you notice these words always have accents? These words will always have accents. And sobreestrújulo. Did you notice that these words always have accents? These words will always have accents. So let's talk about the rule breakers. So those were the rules, and we saw examples of words that followed the rules. But there are, of course, the exceptions, the rule breakers, right? So we know these rules. What happens? Do we think when a word breaks a rule? That's when we use our accent marks. So you heard that right. Accents tell us when a word has broken a rule. Other times, an accent may help us differentiate that word from another that is spelled the same way. So remember, like English, content versus content. Well, in Spanish, we would use accent marks to differentiate between those. So let's look at some examples together. Agudo words. Remember, normally these end in consonants except for N or S. So If a word ends in a vowel N or S, but stresses the last syllable, it's broken a rule. So we have to add an accent. So these are words like canción or mamá, right? Because they end in N and a vowel, we should say actually canción or mama, but we don't, right? We've broken that rule, so we add the accent mark to let us know. Jono. Normally, these end in vowels N or S. So, if a word ends in a consonant but stresses the second to last vowel, you have to add an accent. Right? So these are words like lápiz or frágil. So notice they end in a consonant. So we should say, if the words were going to follow the rule, we would say lápiz or frágil, but we don't say that, right? The word breaks the rule, so we have to add an accent to where the spoken stress is. Estrújulo and sobreestrújulo always have accents, right? So words like crepúsculo, rozándolas, cómetelo, cómpraselo, right? We don't have to worry about those. We're just always going to add an accent to it, okay? So differentiation with accents. So you'll do some learn it activities and mind tap to review, and then some practice activities. A lot of these are going to be like your monosyllabic words. That means like one syllable, including question words or exclamation words. So just to kind of give you a heads up with that, you'll see things like L, no difference in pronunciation, but when we spell them in writing, they're different, okay? No accent is the definite article, the. With an accent is the personal pronoun, he. The same with de. No difference in pronunciation, right? Because it's only one syllable. But without, it is the preposition of, and with an accent, it is the command form of the verb to give, right? Give it to me, démelo. All right. And the same thing with like question words or K and K. So that first K can be a conjunction or a relative pronoun, depending on how it's used in a sentence. And then with an accent, it is the question word why. Okay. So let's give some of this a try. This is just for practice. All right. So I'm going to read you guys a sentence. The first set do not have accents written on them. So in the black, these are just the words I'm saying, but I want you to listen, and then I'll show you where the accents go. All right, so let's listen. Andrés Gómez llegó en abril manejando un automóvil fantástico. Let's take a minute. Where do you think we need to write accents? Where are the words that are breaking the rules? Is this what you thought? Andrés. So because this ends in S, to follow the rule, we would say Andrés, but we don't. It breaks a rule. Gómez ends in a consonant, so we should say Gómez, but we don't. It breaks a rule. Add an accent. Are you getting it? Llegó ends in a vowel. We should say llegó, but that's I arrived, not I arrived past, or he arrived past tense. This is why accents are important. And then automóvil, right, ends in an L and a consonant, so we should say automóvil. We don't say that, so we put an accent. We break the rule. And fantástico is an example of an estrújulo, and those always have accents. Okay, let's give another one a try. Hay un irlandés que vive en Perú que antes vivía en El Salvador. Take a minute. Where do you think we put accents? What are the words that are breaking the rules? Is this what you thought? All right, so irlandés, we don't say irlandés, it breaks the rule. We don't say Peru, it breaks a rule. We don't say via, so it breaks a rule. We have to give that weak vowel some help there, some support. Okay, let's try another one. Siempre íbamos al cine los miércoles cuando éramos jóvenes. Now you may start to think, well, wait, I know how to conjugate verbs, and I know that conjugated verbs sometimes have those accents. So you may already do this, but now we know why they have accents, right? So here, íbamos and éramos and jóvenes, notice they are all esdrújulo. Esdrújulo always have accents. So now we know why we put accents on those words. And and the same with miércoles, right? So all of those are esdrújulo. Okay. Let's look. Enrique no aprendió español en el liceo, pero está estudiándolo ahora. So take a minute. Are there words here that are breaking our rules of accentuation? There are. All right. So again, we don't say aprendió. We say aprendió for past tense. We don't say esta. We could, but that makes it like a demonstrative adjective, like that, right? Or this. So we want to put the accent to make sure we know it is a verb, está. And again, this is estudiándolo is esdrújulo. Always have accents. Let's take a look at another. Ese imbécil y aquel idiota se alegraron muchísimo al ver el desastre. Is this what you got? Imbécil, right? We don't say imbécil. Okay, so it breaks a rule. And muchísimo, esdrújulo, always has an accent. Let's take a look at this next to last one. Mi bisabuela se murió antes de que pudiéramos visitarla en Bogotá. So take a look. There are 3 words that break the rules here. So 3 words need accents. Is this what you thought? Murió, pudiéramos, Bogotá. Okay. María contestó el teléfono cuando sonó anoche después de que habíamos visto esa comedia en la televisión. Ooh, there's a lot in that one. Let's give it a try. Let's see. So, María should actually have an accent. My bad. En contestó, whoa. Del teléfono cuando sonó anoche después de que habíamos visto esa comedia en la televisión. So bad teacher on me for the first 2 words. That should have the I needs a little bit of help, María, and contestó, right? Otherwise it's contesto, which is I answered versus she answered, okay? So bad on me. I hope this helps a little bit. You're going to keep practicing this week. If you need help, please feel free to reach out. I'll be around. We can meet. We can do a Zoom, whatever you need to make sure, or I can record another video going over like a specific activity in iLearn. For example, if you'd like me to do that, I'm happy to do it. All right. So hang in there. Have a wonderful week, your mini pseudo spring break, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.